Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards. Boo! I scared you, right? No? Probably not. Did my wig scare you? Maybe?
I was scared.
Okay, I got you. At least I got somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I could be horror game of the year. But that's what we're talking about here. It's the Shacknews Award for best horror game of the year 2024. Let's go through these nominees and we'll get to talking about them and then we'll get to voting. Yeah, see. Seems like it's a pretty stacked category this year. And it's a year where we don't have a Resident Evil to talk about. The Outlast Trials, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Crow Country, The Casting of Frank Stone, Phasmophobia, which came out of early access this year, and last but not least, Mouthwashing. So yeah, this is a very different. There's some AAA here and there's some indie here, which I love to see. But yeah, who wants to talk about the Outlast Trials? Is it Ozzy?
That might have been an Ozzy joint, but I think Outlast Trials is pretty straightforward. I mean, they finally made a multiplayer Outlast game, which is just cool because I think a big appeal of the single player Outlast games was watching other people play them, or sitting on the couch next to somebody else while they were playing it, and experiencing the scares together. So having that shared chaos where you're all just running around in a dark, abandoned hospital or a mental facility is pretty exciting. So. One of the recognizable ones. I mean, we don't get. I mean, Phasmophobia is also nominated in this category, but we don't get a lot of multiplayer horror like that. So,
yeah. What was the last? Was it RE3, David? That we got that weird multiplayer, like there was like a weird multiplayer mode that shipped alongside RE3. I thought.
Yeah,
that was weird. But yeah, we get a whole lot of multiplayer horror games. But yeah, TJ, you reviewed Silent Hill 2 Remake, right?
I did.
And you loved it.
Yes.
So what makes it so good?
So Silent Hill 2 is like probably the best that Silent Hill has been as far as most fans are concerned. There was a lot of nervousness coming into this one because everybody was like, "Oh no, can they get it right? Can they make what they consider to be the best thing better?" And it turns out that yes, Bloober Team can. They got rid of a lot of the pain points that had to do with the original game. They updated it thoughtfully, but like the main spirit of what makes Silent Hill 2's atmosphere and story work are still very much here. Like, I've seen a lot of people like complain about the over-the-shoulder camera thing when it comes to horror now, AAA horror now, and on some level I'm in agreement just because like it is prevalent in the genre right now. But also I don't think anyone's come up with something that's that much better as far as AAA goes.
Like, what do they want? First person?
They were more concerned because like the original had fixed camera angles.
Oh, okay. So you're talking.
It moved a little bit. I remember it wasn't like stagnant. It moved, right? The camera would pan.
Like that's the thing that people are complaining about is they miss the static cameras.
There will always be those fans who miss the old thing because old. Yeah,
but like those things sucked.
Yeah,
it made the controls like the controls weren't bad in some cases. It was just the camera angles were bad. Like that's a weird thing to be nostalgic about. Is all I'm saying. Like there's a lot of you can be like, oh, they changed that, but like that's a good.
Also, someone out there is nostalgic for Superman 64. They're
wrong.
I know.
Those people,
I know.
They should be locked up.
I know.
Like in an insane asylum. There's no way. Nobody likes
There's something to be said.
You're talking about Silent Hill fans here, all right? Who are playing games like Silent Hill 4.
No, I know.
There's something to be said about camera's perspectives showing you exactly what the director wants you to see, as opposed to over the shoulder.
Yeah. I like them, but the fact is they're not palatable with modern audiences. Would you agree with that, TJ? Like the over the shoulder view seems to be the way to go for most players.
Yeah, it just is. It's what it evolved into.
It's what RE4 did. Like RE4 kicked down that door and was like, "We're
really
never going back."
I think everybody's bigger concern is that like every game does RE4 style now, and but here's the thing: Bloober are amazing at building atmosphere and environmental storytelling, and the strength of having the camera behind your shoulder here is that you might be in control of it, but Bloober is excellent at getting you to look at what they want you to look at. There is deception and misdirection in this game, like because it's a cerebral. It's like what's a word for it? It's
a very thematic
psychological horror. Psychological horror is the one I was going for.
Yeah,
and that's their bag. Layers of Fear and like the Medium, like whether you like those games or not, those are the games that Bloober is good at. And I think they did an amazing job of directing your attention to things that like set up for some really unsettling moments in this game.
Oh yeah.
I remember there was like one spot where like I was climbing down a ladder and Sam, my spouse, was like, "Did you see that just now?" And I'm like, "No, what happened?" And he was like, "There was someone there just now." And I'm like, and I climbed back up the ladder and it's nothing. And so I took a clip of the moment on the PlayStation and I played it back. I was like, "Oh."
You watched the tape?
And it was creepy. I completely missed it. Sam was like, "Oh, that's creepy."
That's
and
awesome.
It's good at that kind of stuff. This and like it's satisfying to play through too. That's one thing that's the Silent Hill games don't always do good at. Their gameplay has been like wading through oatmeal in the past, and everything felt clunky and clumsy, and it should to a certain extent, but not to the point where like it becomes so unfun to play that it feels like a chore. And I think that Silent Hill 2 does a good job of avoiding that. It keeps things tense, it keeps things atmospheric, and it doesn't introduce so much clumsiness that it makes you feel like it's dragging the whole thing down.
Nice.
Yeah, this was my first Silent Hill game. I think I mentioned this in another category. And I just found the whole thing deeply unsettling. You know, I love Resident Evil. It's my favorite horror franchise, but it doesn't do theme that well. Like Resident Evil 2's theme is you're in a police station, so here's some police zombies. Boom, theme. But Silent Hill 2 theme. But Silent Hill 2, everything in that game, from the environments to the enemies, is inspired by the theme of this guy searching for his wife and these secrets that are buried. And I really got into the metaphors, the themes, what the gameplay meant to the story. It's the sort of storytelling I like in games. It's not walls of text or lots of cutscenes. Simply by exploring, you glean more information about what's going on in this world and with these characters.
The world tells you its story as you discover it.
Yeah.
I agree. It's a great environmental storytelling, but also like, that, I don't know, I guess passive storytelling. It's not in your face. There's not
environmental storytelling.
There's not some NPC that pops up and reads you 4 paragraphs ever.
Right.
It is
also
scary as hell too, though. Like the game,
it is scary as fuck.
One last area I want to address is that I feel like this might have some of the best facial mocap I've ever seen in a horror game. Because almost every single character in this game is unsettled and disturbed in some way. And they do such an amazing job of delivering it. Like, you'll see these little twitches in their lips or their eyes, or just like the way they breathe, or just small details that like put a sense of uncertainty, a sense of like there's a thought that entered their head that unsettled them. Like, the conveyance of emotion in Silent Hill 2 is amazing.
I don't know if it was mocap or not, but RE7 had amazing face animations. Like that family. I didn't really like that game. But the family's the creepy old dad, like all that stuff. That's the only one I can think of in recent history, though. TJ, to your point. Nice. I think it's a. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, just shout out to the voice actors too. It's a tough job coming back to, basically get involved in a remake project where people have so much, love for the original and the people involved with, those voices and stuff like that. But taking that on is a lot, situations for like characters that people consider iconic for this game.
For sure.
And making that work in a way that, adds to the immersion and everything else too. It's really, really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Dave and I live in Silent Hill.
Yes, we do.
It's scary. So yeah, I guess we could move on to Crow Country. We got a couple indie games here, right? Crow Country's indie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Donovan, who was this? Did Josh review this for us?
No, I don't recall who reviewed this one. This is one of those games that I have learned the most about through like YouTube videos. It's one of those that like hit off very big with like the theorizing crowd, like the FNAF community and all that, because it's one of those games that's like so rich with lore, but a lot of it has to be you gotta dig to find it. But it looks cool. It's got like this retro vibe. Like I think it's supposed to look like a game from like the N64 era, which I always like when games do that.
I don't think we reviewed it.
Yeah, I mean it flew under the radar for what it's worth. And I think it was in early access for a while.
I played it on Delicious this year.
That's what we okay. I was like, I've seen this
because I knew TJ either recommended it to me explicitly or I saw the Delicious episode, and either way, I played quite a bit of it. And really liked it. Yeah.
But this
is a great one.
Well, I guess we'll get to which horror game you liked more here in a second, David. But Crow Country is I think the most striking part to me is the art style, and it's is it black and white like the entire game?
It's not. It's in color. But these characters are designed. The best way I know to describe the character avatar design is that they look like Final Fantasy VII sprites, but like polished up and clean.
Interesting.
I love a good haunted carnival as well, and this one has a good one.
Yeah, it does. It reminds me of classic Resident Evil games in a way. Like the camera angle is isometric and fixed as you move around, but just the aiming, the tank controls. I think all these elements came together to create a game that feels retro, even though it's only retro if you look at its parts separately. It's really, really good. There's even a mode you can play without any enemies. Like if you just want to explore, solve the puzzles, get into the story, you can do that without any opposition.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of a different game. I'm watching the trailer now. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking of
I remember watching TJ's and Delicious action. It definitely had a lot of vibe. Just why it's cool that we have like both games in this category. Basically, we were just talking about fixed camera angles and stuff like that, and then have a situation here where a game is going for that kind of look and style to a certain extent, and it's a brand new game. But I believe, like from remember watching, it's like set in like the early '90s or 1990 or something like that. So it's part of like that whole vibe.
Yep, it's set in the year 1990. It has that vibe. It has that like old school 90s, like even some of those old LucasArts kind of looking games. It's neat. This category is stacked though. Who wants to talk about the casting of Frank Stone?
I could talk about it. I reviewed it. It's a super massive joint. The most interesting thing about this game is that it's set in the Dead by Daylight universe. It's a part of Behavior's like effort to kind of diversify that IP. So they teamed up with Supermassive to do one of their like choose your own adventure style narrative driven games. It's neat. I like that the story follows like a group of indie filmmakers that like accidentally make a cursed movie. I just in general I love the idea of like cursed media, like The Ring. I always was super into. So it's kind of like that where the timeline jumps back and forth from being in the 80s when like they were trying to shoot this film at like some abandoned steel mill or something, and then modern day where it's like as much more mature adults and now even their relatives like dealing with the paranormal, supernatural fallout of their movie and the effect it's had like on culture in their small town, which I thought was fun. It's not really doing anything to push the boundary of what you get out of these games. I think it's cool how they kind of use some of the D&D, not D&D, the DBD mechanics, where like a big thing in Dead by Daylight is like fixing the generators, and you do that mini game where the ticker like loops around the circle and you got to hit it right at the perfect time to fix them. They do that in this game where that just becomes the new QTE is that mini game, which I'm like, okay, that's like a cool like mechanical nod to Dead by Daylight. But yeah, I think it's a mostly like decent, all right, supernatural video game.
How does it compare to like Until Dawn, like those games? Because I feel like it's in the same territory. It wants to be in that same territory.
It is. This is more like a Dark Pictures anthology than an Until Dawn or The Quarry, where those games just have like Until Dawn had Sony money behind it, and then The Quarry had 2K money behind it. This this game did not have that big of a financial behemoth behind it, but it's good for what it is. I mean, I think DBD obsessives and like the supernatural, supermassive fans like myself will get something out of it, but it's not like one of their showpiece games.
Nice. I feel like we've been talking about Phasmophobia for years.
Yeah.
And we have.
Yeah.
But it's finally out of early access. So we got a 1.0. We reviewed it this year. It's still great. Right? It's one of the more unique I can't remember, I don't know if we were recording when he said this or not, but like multiplayer horror we haven't really seen a whole lot of in recent history, and this is probably one of the most compelling multiplayer horror games like ever made. It's really enjoyable to watch on stream. It's like one of the funnier, I think, horror games to stream. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to play it because I'm a scaredy cat.
Scary game, man. Especially if you play it in VR. I've done that.
Yeah.
That is, I mean...
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good on horror games in VR.
I love how freeform Phasmophobia is, though, because when you play it, there's like a loose objective, like, oh, there's a ghost that's like been bothering this house, but you still have to figure out like what kind of ghost it is. Is it a poltergeist or like a specter or whatever? They have different behaviors. They'll like throw items and shit around the building. Some of them will like manifest images and stuff in front of you. And you have, I forget what they call it. It was the EKG or some sort of reader that like measures like the paranormal activity, so to speak, where you'll be in a bedroom and then the meter like shoot up to red and you'll start like hearing sounds and stuff. Is great. It's a good time to just like scream in a Discord call with your friends and accomplish nothing at the end of the day, but still have a lot of fun doing it.
Absolutely. Definitely worthy nominee.
I give Phasmo some credit because I mean it's a horror game that you get to also engage in with your friends, but it's also one that people enjoy watching too.
Yeah.
Engaging with that way, so there's like a community kind of aspect to it all that is hard to pull off, especially in the horror genre, in the way they can sustain itself and that kind of thing. So,
and to like still be popular. Like so many early access games like peak in popularity before they even ship, and that's not the case here. I think Phasmophobia is going to be around for a while. It's also the kind of game that they could keep supporting with more stuff. And they listen, like to your point, Danny, like they listened to their community while they were building this thing, and it's how they got to 1.0. Yeah, solid nominee. Just very different games here in this category this year. Like this last one, though, I need to play this. Everyone's been saying Mouthwashing is like one of the sleeper hits of the year.
That's what I've heard.
I see you nodding, Donovan and TJ. Who wants to jump on this?
I'm personally not super familiar with it. I just know that it's gotten amazing buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I can talk about Mouthwashing. I played that, finished it.
Okay.
Yeah, talk about flying under people's radars. Mouthwashing is a psychological horror game, and it just sort of it's set upon a long-haul cargo ship that crashes after someone messes with the controls and slams it into an asteroid. And so what you have now is a group of, I think it's 5 crew members, one of which is severely injured, just trying to survive in isolation, stuck, and hoping that their company will come and rescue them. And so you've got this, this tension of depleting resources and fraying emotional bonds that always comes with these sort of stories of people being stuck by themselves. It's got strong vibes of like Iron Lung, if you ever played that horror game. There's some like Severance vibes from like the TV show in terms of like the corporation and sort of the weirdness that's going on there, and even like the 2011 movie The Divide, of people being stuck in a bunker. So at every turn, how the story sort of plays out is from 2 different points in time: the lead up to the crash and immediately after the crash. And as the stories kind of go along, you kind of get a whole complete picture of exactly what happened and why it happened. And in terms of just something that eats away at you, yeah, every new chapter that you enter, you're just kind of like, oh, this is not good. This is not a good situation to be in at all.
This
And
art style is pretty striking, Sam. It's
very striking.
It's retro. It kind of gives me some like Five Nights at Freddy's vibes. What's with the eyeballs?
Yeah, no, I can't.
It's like that's like spoiler territory.
Yeah, one of the guys is wrapped in bandages and he's only got an eyeball and his mouth is like torn of flesh, and it's up to you to give him medication.
Don't like that.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's just
so that's the mouth that you're washing.
No.
Oh.
No. No, I can't. I would love to talk more in depth about it, but yeah, you kind of
There you go, Sam. Play the game. Here you go, guys.
Well, it's just if you kind of explain, you know how some of these horror like stories, if you explain one part, you kind of it kind of loses. Yeah, it kind of like a little reveal might be lessened. So
I gotta say, the developer name may be my favorite for a horror game ever. Wrong Organ.
That's good. For a horror studio.
Solid
That's really
name.
good.
Yeah. In terms of length, you're looking at maybe I finished it in one sitting. So if that's any indication, maybe 4 to 6 hours, you could get this one done and dusted.
Nice.
I think, yeah. If you're a fan of indie horrors, definitely check it out. Yeah, I think I finished it in 2.5 hours. So
Wow.
very short. Yeah.
Well, you're just a pro, aren't you?
Oh, mate. That's it. Close your eyes and run.
Yeah. I mean, I just close my eyes and don't play the game because I'm even. I don't know. This is not my category.
It tells you how much like horrors, a lot of times there's ties to the mystery and stuff like that too. Or you're intrigued and don't want to necessarily keep looking, but then you end up doing it.
Yeah.
A little bit further.
Yeah, when like a horror movie becomes a thriller, kind of. Yeah, those.
Yeah, it's also important, that element of hope in a horror game, where you drop a little bit of hope and the characters will just start to peel back the layer, and that hope just turns to
despair.
Despair.
Oh, well, those are the nominees. What do you say? Want to vote?
I'll start if you want. Center Square can start.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to. You can go in order. That's fine.
No. You go.
Actually, what Donovan told me about the casting of Frank Stone, I'm really into, and like I've been enjoying. I haven't played much of Silent Hill 2. I've played a little bit of it, and it's a great horror game, and it's probably gonna win. But it had a template of what to do, right? It had like that fan base of Silent Hill. It had that atmosphere. It had everything like they needed to check off. They never done a game like this, and I want to check it out. Until Dawn's like one of my favorite stories ever in terms of horror. And I'm gonna watch or play the casting of Frank Stone over the break and see if it's the same. But what Donovan said and what I've seen, it looks like it's right up my alley. I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Here's your think of it.
TJ, what are you thinking?
I think I'm gonna go with Silent Hill 2, just because it was the thing that legitimately. I've played just about everything here this year at some point or another, and Silent Hill 2 was the one that consistently just like freaked me out the most.
I think it's like the biggest budget here too. It's the largest game. Bill?
Silent Hill 2.
Okay. Sam?
As much as I love mouthwashing, I do have to recognize that Silent Hill 2 maybe has more on offer in terms of gameplay and maybe horror elements as well. So I got to go Silent Hill 2.
Yeah. David, I think I know your vote.
Yeah, Silent Hill 2, and a quick shout out to the audio design of that game. I mentioned it in another category, but it's definitely part of what makes that game so terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Donovan?
Silent Hill 2.
Danny?
I'm definitely going with Silent Hill 2 because I know how many ways that this game could have gone wrong. As someone who watches plenty of content creators who speedrun former Silent Hill games,
Yeah.
and how much they've been talking about this game for months on end, hoping and praying that it's not a disaster or the worst thing that they could think of for a remake. And actually, majority of them being satisfied. You know, from the levels of immersion and everything else involved, and it actually being scary. I'd say that they did what they succeeded at what they're supposed to do. So
The year that Konami remembered that they own actually iconic intellectual property in the video game space. Like they're like, oh yeah, we have Contra, don't we? Oh yeah, we own Silent Hill. It's like, please. Oh, and also the Dominus collection, the Castlevania Dominus collection, right? Like, it's been a year where Capcom kind of remembered that they used to make great video games. They still can if they work with the right devs, like giving Bloober Team a chance, to TJ's point earlier. We have some absentee votes here. Ozzy voted for Silent Hill 2, and Steve voted for Mouthwashing. I live in Silent Hill, so of course I'm going to vote for Silent Hill 2.
well, there you go.
We need one of those like trademark Foggy Canton days, David, so I can just go out there and film and people will understand what I'm talking about. But like, we don't go like 2 weeks without that creepy fog rolling into this town. And the contrast of light and dark in that game, I think, is pretty masterfully used. But yeah, it's overwhelmingly in favor of Silent Hill 2. So congratulations, Konami. Keep publishing video games. We like them. And the best horror game of the year 2024 goes to Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Your own little Mary.
It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead.